Welcome to Kadampa podcasts. These podcasts offer practical solutions to daily challenges and help guide us to a happier and more peaceful state of mind. In each episode, you will find an extract from a teaching given by one of various Kadampa Buddhist teachers worldwide. All these teachings are inspired by the profound wisdom of Venerable Geshe Khalsang Gyatso Rinpoche, a Buddhist master for our time. We hope you enjoy listening.
We've really gotten good, or I should say bad, at filling in every single gap in the day. So instead of thinking, there's a gap, so let me just check. We're not going to find any happiness in here. No one's ever done it. This is not where happiness is. Scrolling up doesn't bring happiness. Scrolling down doesn't bring happiness. Scrolling left and right definitely doesn't bring happiness, right? So instead of that, it's a kind of futile pursuit of happiness. We just think, I remember what makes me happy, and that is this feeling of love. Whatever my meditation was, my last Lam Rim meditation, it made me feel good and made me feel different in a good way. It made me feel hopeful, made me feel like happiness is really possible, made me care about others. Whatever it is, that is actually what I'm going to do in my gaps. Instead of going here, I'm going to go here and remember that peaceful experience. Go back to it. If we do that, you will have a productive day. Your day will be better. But I promise. I mean, you know it will, don't you? I don't even need to tell you. You know it will be a better day if you actually do that. So, at least a few of those phone gaps we can do, or a few of the natural gaps in the day when we're, like, for example, on the subway. That's such good meditation time on the subway, isn't it? I mean, you can do the phone thing, or you can stare at everyone in horror. Or you can think about all the problems you've got waiting for you at work. You can think about everything you're going to have to do at work, or you can think about all the things you did wrong yesterday, whatever it is. Or you can think, this is actually, I've got 10, 15 minutes on this train. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. No one needs anything. I'm just going to get into my heart. And I'm going to share this with everybody in the subway, because they all need it. I can see that. Do you see what I mean? If we become mindful in that way, then our days will be transformed. They will be transformed. It's entirely up to us. This stuff works very well, but it only works if we do it. And then, of course, what happens when we get some success under our belt, as it were, we feel that, we've had a relatively productive day. We feel relatively encouraged by our efforts that day. Then we are more encouraged to do it the next day, aren't we? And this is what happens. We just keep practicing like that. It gets easier. We get more and more familiar, and it gets easier and more familiar, and then it's a snowball effect, isn't it? Before we know it, we're thinking about Dharma most of the day. Eventually, we're thinking about it all the time, and our mind is always peaceful, beneficial. Our life feels amazing, very meaningful. This happens for everybody who does it. So anyway, be practical about it. Figure out what you can do and make your own plans. But whenever we do a meditation, that kind of moment at the end of the meditation, we think, now I'm going to make some plan for the day. That's an important point, because otherwise we meditate 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a week, whatever it is. That leaves a lot of hours and minutes to just get deluded again. But it doesn't have to be like that. It really doesn't have to be like that. Even though we live in a madly distracted world, there are still a lot of natural moments when we can check in on our minds. It's just a little bit of encouragement. So now we got to the meditation for compassion. The purpose of this meditation is to develop bodhicitta, as mentioned before. The sincere wish to become an enlightened being, to liberate all living beings. So we need compassion in order to become a bodhisattva. All the previous Buddhas were born from the mother of compassion for all living beings. We should follow their example and apply effort to generate compassion for all living beings without exception. the more our compassion for all living beings increases, the closer and closer we become to the attainment of enlightenment. So why? This is because our compassion for all living beings makes our mind and our actions more and more pure. And when through this our mind and our actions become completely pure, we become an enlightened being. So we become less and less deluded, and our good qualities just naturally increase within the environment of compassion. So to develop compassion, universal compassion, compassion is not just a wish to be nice to other people. It's a wish for something for others. When we think about compassion for someone else, it's a wish for something. It's a wish for them to be free from suffering. So if a friend of ours breaks their leg and we think, I want their leg to be better. We really want that. That's compassion. Compassion is the wish for someone to be free from suffering. The genuine wish, I want them to be free from this broken leg. Everything, or they've got some anxiety. I really want them to be free from this anxiety. That's compassion. So what we need to do with our compassion, we already have the seed of compassion. It already comes up every now and then for the people we care about. So one thing we have to do is increase the number of people we care about, hence the meditation we just did. Then, if we focus on their suffering, we naturally develop that wish for them to be free from that suffering. So we need to extend the contemplation is not just about wishing people to be free from a broken leg. Yeah, we wish them to be free from their broken leg. Of course we do. But that's not enough. We think even if their leg is fixed, something else is going to break sooner or later. Well, they're going to get COVID, and then they're going to get old and dead. In fact, it doesn't matter how many bits of their body are fixed, they're going to experience more physical pain sooner or later. And then when they die, if they haven't purified their mind, they're going to experience another life, more broken legs, more suffering. So I need to kind of increase the scope of my compassion for them. I can use the broken leg as a way in, as a way to kind of evoke that initial compassion for them. But then through some wisdom, we think, well, actually, this is just a snapshot. This is like just a postcard of their suffering in samsara. It's just one experience that they're having of suffering. It's bad enough, and wishing them to be free from it is good, but what then? What if they're free from the suffering? Are they free from all suffering? And we contemplate and realize, no, they're not. They're not. So my compassion needs to go more deep for them. And we start to get their life and their kind of existential existence into context. What this does, interestingly enough, is it alleviates our worry for their broken leg, ironically, because now we're developing some wisdom, some depth to our compassion, and we're developing a genuine wish that they become permanently free from suffering, not just this leg, but everything, permanently free from all sufferings. And that mind of compassion is a very pure mind, it's a very peaceful mind, and it's very solution-oriented. You think, I'm going to help them get rid of their suffering. How? Actually, by becoming a Buddha. Next step, right? At this point, we were staying with the compassion, just wanting to free them from their suffering. But when that compassion is qualified, when it kicks in, when it becomes strong, of course, naturally, we're then going to think, what can I do to free them from their suffering? And that's when we think, okay, I've got to travel the spiritual path. For their sake, I have to get rid of my limitations. I've got to get rid of my delusions. I can't help anyone when I'm deluded. Got to get rid of my own suffering. I can't help anyone when I'm in a lot of physical, mental pain that I can't cope with myself. I need to be able to cope with my own suffering, develop renunciation for that. I need to get rid of my own self-grasping, my own self-cherishing. I need to free myself so that I can free others. And these thoughts are going to naturally come if we have compassion, because we really want to help someone. It's like, one example is if a child is drowning in the river, and then some onlookers on the bank, and maybe all of them have some wish for that child to be saved, but maybe their dad is there and it's not enough for him just to wish for that child to be saved. He jumps in the river, try and save the child himself, right? So the problem is that we can't always jump in and save people because we don't have the capacity. Maybe the dad's in a wheelchair, so he really wants to save the child, but he can't, right? So where am I going with this? This leads to the dad thinking, I wish I was out of this wheelchair. So maybe someone else saved the child, has a happy ending, right? But going back to us and our wish for enlightenment, we think, I really want to free others from their suffering, but right now I can't. I'm limited in some way. Why am I limited? Because I have delusions. I'm limited. I still have a bunch of self-cherishing, a lot of self-cherishing. I still have suffering. I still have this. Still have that. I've got to get rid of all of it as quickly as possible so that I can jump into the great ocean of samsara and free everybody, because I really, really want to. If we really, really want to do it, we will find ways to do it. And with some wisdom, we understand the best way to do it is to get rid of our own limitations and faults and become enlightened. Does that make sense? So the more compassion we have, the quicker we're going to realize our spiritual potential. So to develop compassion, and by the way, next week we'll do a really nice meditation on compassion. So universal compassion is a mind that sincerely wishes to permanently liberate all living beings from suffering. If on the basis of cherishing all living beings, we contemplate the fact that they experience the cycle of physical suffering and mental pain in life after life without end, their inability to liberate themselves from suffering, their lack of freedom, and how by engaging in negative actions they create the causes of future suffering, we will develop deep compassion for them. We need to empathize with them and feel their pain as keenly as we feel our own. So, one way to develop compassion, a good way to develop compassion, we're trying to develop it for all living beings, right? But that's a lot, right? That's really a lot. The other day on FP, I was explaining this. When we develop love for all living beings or compassion for all living beings, it seems like, that's a lot. But it's just imputation. So, for example, all living beings at this point, we can't see all living beings, or we're not omniscient. We just know they're there, but we don't know them in detail or what they're going through in detail. We can only sort of imagine or infer, right? But also it seems like a lot. So I was thinking about this example. I shared this example the other day. We're in New York City, and everywhere you go, there's like mugs saying, "I love New York." And there always have been, haven't there? Like, people love New York. Or at least they say they do. But anyway, and maybe they do. So, okay, let's say if you love New York, let's say you're one of these New Yorkers who loves New York. I saw a picture of a big rat actually saying, "We love New York." Saw that yesterday. So generally, if we love New York's like this huge place and lots is going on and there's loads of people in it and we love it. So it's just an imputation, New York, just a label that we've labeled on a bunch of things. But we can hold that in our mind. We think, I love New York, even though New York is huge. We don't even know what's going on in New York. We don't even know what's going on 7th Avenue right now. We don't really know what's going on anywhere, do we? But we can still love it. We can still love the whole of New York without itemizing what's going on everywhere. Do you see what I mean? So we can love all living beings in a similar way. I love all living beings. But then within New York, if you love New York, maybe you go to the Hudson and you think, oh, I love this river. Or you walk along the High Line, you go, I love this High Line. You see where I've been recently. Or you go along to Times Square and you think, I don't know if I love this. Okay, I sort of love it. It's exciting. Whatever. Wherever you go in New York, then if you love it, you're going to think, I love this, I love that, I love this. So that the details will appear. So it's the same with all living beings. I love all living beings. I have compassion, wishing everyone to be free from their suffering, all living beings. So I have this general idea, imputation. But then within that, whenever we meet someone, I love this person. I want this person to be free from their suffering because they're part of all living beings. Does that make sense? So when it comes to generating compassion, within that feeling of, actually, I want to liberate all living beings from their sufferings. It can be quite a vague notion, but it's there, right? And it will grow and get deeper. But within that, we then kind of hone in or deepen our compassion by focusing, of course, on individuals. Of course, we apply these meditations not in a completely abstract way to the faceless mass of humankind and animal kind and so on. We take specific examples. That is our way in. We have to do it that way. We need to do it that way. We want to do it that way. So we take an example of someone who's suffering and we think about this, basically. We think about how this person right now, maybe they've got a broken leg, but also this is, they're experiencing the cycle of physical suffering, mental pain. This is just a snapshot. How can I bear this? Earlier on in the book, in the renunciation section, those of you who are here for that, you know that we meditated, or you did, on the 7 types of suffering. Do you remember that? That we all are trapped within: sickness, aging, death, rebirth, not getting what we want, always getting what we don't want, no satisfaction. Sound familiar? Yeah. So that's our existential predicament in samsara, and we develop renunciation based on that contemplation. I want to be free from this. This is crazy. I'm out of here. And then we think, where's it all coming from? That's the other meditation. Like, it's all coming from my self-grasping ignorance. There's actually the true origins of this suffering as a distinct cause, origin. Buddha explained it very, very clearly. I need to get rid of my self-grasping and my self-cherishing. And then all the other suffering is going to go away. I really want that for myself. Part of our renunciation. And now we're applying that to other people. Exactly the same. Contemplation. Others are trapped in the cycle of mental and physical pain, these 7 sufferings, sickness and aging and death and so on, not getting what they want, always getting what they don't want, never fully satisfied, fulfilled and so on. And why? If I want to go even deeper with my compassion, the question is, why are they experiencing these things? And it's because of their self-grasping ignorance and other delusions. Therefore, I want them to be free from that. When we develop compassion, we're not just developing compassion for the symptoms, putting a Band-Aid. We're really thinking, I want to dig out all the causes of the suffering from their mind. I really want them to be completely free from suffering permanently. That means I want them to be free from suffering and its causes. And when we develop that wish for someone to be free from suffering and its causes, that is the compassion we need. That's really deep, qualified compassion.
If you feel inspired by this podcast, then dive deeper into timeless wisdom of modern Kadampa Buddhism by following the link in the episode description. We look forward to reconnecting with you in the next episode of Kadampa Podcasts.